Hey, how's it going, everybody? Josh Kimmel from Beyond Sight and Sound. Do you love talking shop? Do you have a passion for metal detecting? Well, then jump in and join the rest of us as we tune in to All Metal Mode with Mike and Bob. You're really going to enjoy the show. Sit back, relax, and have some fun. Take it away, guys. We'll see ya.
Hey everybody, this is Mike, and I'm really excited about this podcast we're doing tonight. We're kind of doing a 2017 buyer's guide and what we think's hot and what people are talking about. And we have a special guest. First, let me introduce Bob.
Hey.
Bob's extra sleepy tonight. He's been on the road since like what,
3
4. Yeah. So
yeah.
It's 7 o'clock at night, so we're actually just trying to keep him awake here is what we're doing. But we got a special guest, and I'm really glad you could join us, Josh.
Oh, man, you mean you're talking about me?
Right. Yeah, you didn't.
Oh, well, what the hell? I was getting all excited. I wanted to hear this special guest.
Yeah.
Nope,
me
it's
too.
you.
I
You're
was like
special.
wondering, how come Mike didn't tell me about the special guest? Sorry, Josh. I had to.
Oh, well.
Well, we're starting off with laughs. It's going to be a good show. So,
It's always a good show.
I want to start by asking Josh. We're going to start at the lower price range and work our way up from there. But what do you think about the Go Find metal detectors, Josh? I know you've used them. I know you got one. What do you think about them?
Well, some people may not look at it that way, but I'm telling you, for that price range, they're a very good machine. It's a great way for somebody just getting into the hobby to get into like an entry-level mine lab.
Mm-hmm.
It's got some nice features, especially once you get into, say, the 40 or the 60, where you've got the smartphone integrated app, and it's collapsible, it's lightweight, it's got some decent depth, and the beauty of it, with it being collapsible like that, is it's infinitely adjustable in a sense.
Right.
So you can have it adjusted for yourself, or you could turn around and, kind of take that down a little bit and hand it off to an 8 or 10-year-old child, and they can swing it just fine.
Yeah, that's an awesome feature, and it's a neat-looking machine. What kind of depth did you find with it? And then, like, what about target separation? Can you talk about that?
Target separation isn't bad at all. I gave it a good run when it first came out, and I took it into a park that's, it's hunted fairly regularly, and I had went in after there had been an event, so I knew I was going to be picking up stuff all over on the surface.
Right.
But that being said, and I was running the 40. I mean, I've heard some people say that, you get a couple inches of depth off of it. It looks like a kid's toy. Absolutely not. I was pulling targets as deep as 8 or 9 inches with the 40 with no problems. It was picking it up just fine.
Really? That's pretty crazy. I would have never thought in that price range it would get that kind of depth. What kind of separation on targets? I mean, we're talking the lower price range here. I don't expect it to move mountains or anything, but a decent separation of targets.
Well, and you figured, like you said, a lower price range, you're probably not expecting, let's just say conservatively, let's say maybe there wasn't anything out there deeper than 7 or 8 inches. And that's what I was hitting. But I'm sure I had pulled some of them targets at 8, maybe even 9 inches, which is very respectable and commendable for an entry-level machine or a lower-end machine. In that price range. It's because of the advantage that we have is because of the technology. As far as the target separation wasn't too bad. There were some times where I had multiple targets under the coil, but I could hear it, swinging over it. You'd hear the different tones, maybe, coming back the other direction. Maybe you wouldn't hit it every time. But there again, this is a lower end machine, very competitively priced. So, you may not see target separation like you would out of, a Deus. But in its price range, the target separation, I thought, myself, was very good.
Now, I almost hate to say this. I don't want to, upset anybody or manufacturer, but I was never a big fan of the Ace 250 simply because of the bell tone. I know some people that did really good with it. It is a great, little coin shooter for parks and stuff. You don't get crazy depth. You're not going to get, it's hard with an Ace 250 to go out and find deep silver coins and trash. Now, I've heard of guys, I know of somebody that hunted with a guy with one he changed his coil, and he was regularly finding really good finds with the Ace 250. I don't like the bell tones and stuff. That's the biggest thing that would turn me away from that machine. But, the Ace 250 is very popular too. Now, what are the tones like on that machine? On the Go Find?
Well, on the Go Find, the tones are out of the box fairly plain.
Okay.
It doesn't even sound like what you would anticipate a Minelab machine to sound like. It's not the sort of fluty kind of Calliope on PCP kind of tone.
You said on PCP, Bob.
It's nothing. It's nothing like that. It's a fairly plain tone. But if you have the smartphone app, which you can utilize with either the 40 or the 60, you've actually got a little more flexibility with the tones. You can use different tones and stuff like that and play around with it and make it a little fun.
That's pretty cool. Is it a multi-tone machine, or is it just like 2 or 3? Or
it is a multi-tone, but even at multi-tone, obviously, since it's a lower end, it's a limited range of multi-tones. Okay. I believe it's been a while since I've had mine out now. The last time I was out was back around Easter with it, but I think it's got 3 or 4 tones on the 40.
You got me impressed on that machine. Now, have you guys, either one of you ever, I know you've hunted with somebody with an Ace 250, haven't you, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't you want to kill them and bury their body and break their machine or something?
No, here's the deal is that if that's all you have, I'm not going to knock it.
Right.
But for me, my first machine was a Garrett GTA X or a GTA 750 or AX 750 or whatever it was, and it was bell tone, and the time it takes for that bell tone to complete the sound of a bell tone, that could be the size of an axe or a beer can laying sideways. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't size it. You can't size a target with bell tone, and I just that's one thing I can't get past the bell tone at all.
Yeah, me too. I'm not knocking it because I know people do good with it, but I was always kind of surprised at how popular it was with the bell tone, because that bell tone drove me nuts. And so I don't know, but there's something about it. I know guys that have had them and used them and done really good, and at that entry level price. And I know Technetics makes some really good. I've heard people talk about like the oh geez, what are they, like the Delta and the Alpha and all those. I've heard they're pretty good, and Fisher the F2, and they've got some others. I actually years ago, I want to say the F2 had just come out and stuff. I knew somebody had one and hunted with her a little bit, and pretty impressive little machine in that price range. So I think would you guys agree in the lower end price range, there's kind of a lot of options to choose from?
There are a lot of options to choose from. Actually, Bob really hit it on the head saying, I'm not knocking anybody for the machine that they use, because whether it's a lower end or bell tone audio or even a higher end machine, the important part is that they're still getting out there using it, and they're finding what's working for them so that they can enjoy the hobby.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't knock anybody. I've hunted with, I hunted with a guy that had like a $60 kids machine, and
I was with you.
You could laugh all you want, but that guy go out and relic hunt with that machine and blow your mind. I don't like the bell tone with the Ace 250. Like when I hunt with somebody, it's like, man, you got to wear headphones because that thing will drive me mad. I'm not knocking the machine, and I'm definitely not knocking anybody that uses a lower end machine, because there's some, I was telling Bob this earlier. I know a guy that hunted with somebody that used an Ace 250, and this guy's a MindLab user, a knee track. And at the time, I don't know what he has now, but this guy was consistently going out and finding silver coins and good relics and stuff with this Ace 250. To the point, it very much impressed the guy with the E-Track. And this guy that with the E-Track, I'd hunted with him. He's a very knowledgeable, good hunter. So I would never knock anybody on a lower machine. I just can't stand that bell tone. When I would sell them and take people out, it's like, oh my God, it makes me cringe for some reason.
That's when you say, note to self, I have to remember and sell these customers headphones as well.
Right. You're going to have to buy a set of headphones.
Ha-bing, 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 ha-bing. Oh. Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you though, that being said, it was always kind of handy when I was hunting with people with Ace 250s, because I always knew where they were.
Right. But
it's like putting a bell around their neck.
There's so right. Yeah, you know where they're at if they don't have headphones. And a lot of people that start off in that price range, they don't buy headphones, they don't want headphones, or they can't afford it even. And it's like, oh my God, man, you're going to drive me crazy. I
can't hunt with anybody that doesn't use headphones.
Right, with any machine. You're right. They drive me crazy.
With any machine. Yeah. I don't want to listen to your machine.
Right.
Well, and I'm sure
what you do is you actually find yourself analyzing the sounds from their machine over your machine. Now you're double tasking.
Exactly.
You're listening to yours. You're listening to theirs. It's like, ooh, that sounded good. That sounded
right.
good.
You're walking on that?
Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not here to multitask like that.
But that being said, though, too, I'm sure you've seen it, Bob. You probably have as well, Mike. I've seen where people got into the hobby with an Ace 250, and they did well enough with it that they enjoyed it so much they just kept using the clad they were finding to upgrade to a better machine. And a number of those people are running MindLabs now, or Whites, or something like that.
Or AT Pros. Yes. I couldn't agree more.
I think Josh was listening to our conversation earlier, because he keeps saying things like almost word for word
that we were talking about. Yeah, that's funny.
Isn't that uncanny? Uncanny, huh?
Yeah, for sure. But I think we can wrap up the lower end price range by saying I think there's a lot of good options out there. From Technetics, Fisher, the F series, like the F2, the F22, F44. Do they still make the F2? Is that the 20? Yeah, they still make the F2. But there's several, depending on what you're wanting to spend. And I personally, I don't get, I'm not trying to discourage anybody, but I like I said, I'm not a big fan of the Garrett blah, geez. What am I trying to say, guys? The Ace series. I don't like the bell tone, but they are good machines. They're good starter machines. Guys go out and find good stuff with them. It's just that bell tone. But
absolutely they do, and that's the thing. For some people, maybe that's the only way they can get into the hobby, is to start at the ground level and work their way up. But in that aspect, the best thing they can do, because the lower end machines like that, they're very affordably priced. So they can find someone in their area that's using them, because chances are good if it's working for that person, it'll work for this person getting into the hobby. Find themselves a local dealer that they trust and get right in there and enjoy it.
Most of your...
Well, Go ahead, Mike.
No, go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say, when you're talking about this entry level, and you're not referring to a child that may or may not within a half an hour completely lose interest in it, and it's like, oh well, you got $120 wrapped up in it, no big deal. But as far as yourself is concerned, anybody that thinks that this is a hobby that they would like to get into, my wife, she said to me years ago, I've always been a hobbyist, whether it be model railroading, high-end slot cars, mountain bikes, I could go on and on and on, metal detecting. She says, quit upgrading. You're costing us too much money. Do your research and buy what you want to have. She goes, you buy this one, and then you got to go up to this one, and then you're going to finally go up to this one. She goes, you're costing us too much money. She goes, do your research. She goes, and get the one you want. She goes, and I'm like, well, we can't afford. Well, guess what? I can't afford to buy 3 or 4 or 5 different machines. So, and you know what? She was right. She was right. So, wait a second, because something I've told people that when I knocked on doors and people say, hey, I was thinking about getting into metal detecting. What do you think? A good machine would be for me to get started with, and or price range. And I told them that you can get into it for under a couple $100. I says, but I wouldn't get into it for at least $500, and then I would suggest the AT Pro, only because you have a fighting chance at that point. You're going to have something that has the ability right off the bat, that has the capability of keeping up with the higher price machines, and you could always sell it if it's not your bag. It's harder to sell.
You relieve yourself of some of the beginner frustration.
Yes, but I think I agree with you to some extent, very much, but there's a couple things that I think have to be considered. If somebody can't afford the money, you're right, you've got a very good fighting chance of finding really good stuff with the AT Pro. I agree with that 100%, but one thing, Bob, I got a guy called me one time. He wanted he called me out of the blue. He wanted a MineLab E-Track. Yeah, I could do that. You've been in the hobby long. I'm brand new to it. Well, what are you wanting to do? I'm a chatty guy. I want to know what's, and try to make sure he gets the right machine. He said, well, my kids go play at the playground all the time, and I'd like to have a metal detector to metal detect with them. And I'm like, oh, cool. Are you into history and stuff? He's like, no. What do you want to find? Just clad and jewelry and stuff. And I'm like, look, I'll sell you an E-Track all day long, but you could you could buy something much cheaper for what you're wanting to do. This guy wasn't. So you got to keep in mind, your uncle's he's fine going out and finding clad all summer long. So you don't need an expensive machine for that. Now, another thing, if you just flat out don't have the money and it's going to take you months and months to save up, there's, one of the ways to do it, and Josh has said this, you might have just said it on while we're doing the podcast even, get a lower end machine and go find clad. Go out 3-4 times a week and you will find, there's people that go find 1,000 plus in clad and a couple pieces of jewelry that puts them over $1,000. Save it up at the end and go buy that machine you want. If you want to go find the deep silver coins and you want to find the relics and that kind of stuff. So I agree with you. If you want to go find relics and coins and you want a fighting chance from the beginning, you're going to have to spend 500 plus. I think we can all agree on that, don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
You agree, Josh?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know a guy that his first year with the Ace 250, I'll bet you he recovered 5,000 coins.
Right.
With an Ace 250, and he was able to go out and buy himself the next machine he wanted.
Now, he probably found very few, if any, silver coins with that, and you're not going to get that in a lower price range in most cases.
Actually, he found a few hundred silver coins.
You're kidding me.
No.
Wow. That's surprising. I wouldn't think that price range you could do that.
I'm not sure the areas he was hunting, though, but believe me, I tried finding out, but he wasn't giving it up.
Right. I know it can be done. Like I said, the guy I knew, the guy he hunted with, he was doing it on a regular basis, so it can be done. You don't have the bells and whistles and some of the different things to help you identify where a better machine will. Separation of targets and that kind of stuff, but
hey, my 750, my Garrett 750, which is, I bet you any one of those Ace units can easily keep up with one of the old green 750s, and it was bell tone. I found plenty of silver with that.
Really?
My hunting locations were just narrowed down. They didn't have any ground balance. There was no ground balance on them, and not even until you got into the 2500 series did you even have ground balance. Not even the 1500s, because I made a mistake. I thought, well, I know this 750 so well, I might as well upgrade to a 1500, and I had it for a week and sold it for half the price that I bought it for and never went back. But yeah, even with the I'm sure that the trickle down technology from those green machines down to the 250 and the 350, they're just as capable. And if you got your coil over silver, 6 inches deep, you're going to find it. So
absolutely.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I think when you get into the higher price range, you'll get better depth, better identification, and better separation overall.
And you can go into places where you couldn't take a 250. A 250
right.
would work probably pretty good in a park or a school or a farm field, even. But when you're talking about an old home site where there's a lot of debris, or even in some of these yards that have what they consider cross-entry contamination, you're going to want something a little bit more discerning.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
I think you summed that up really nicely, Bob.
Yeah, that is where your ability to discriminate will come in very handy, and that's something that you don't see as much of until you start getting into the higher priced units.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I agree. I think we've covered the lower price range, and I'm kind of excited to move on into the, when it comes into the mid price range.
You're so easily excited, Mike. That's what I like about you.
Right. when you get into the
excited.
the midline and the higher price range, I can narrow it down a little bit more for my picks and what I think, is good. So midline price range, what do you guys think? Any thoughts?
Well, why don't you go first, Bob?
I'm busting at the seams, guys. Come on, I want to talk about it. Come on.
I would have said.
The anticipation's killing him.
The suspension was killing him. Again, I'm gonna have to say, what's everybody using? What's everybody using? You know what I use. I use a CTX and only a CTX. So, but what's everybody using when you go on social media and you check out all the YouTube videos and stuff? What's everybody using? Josh, you know what that answer is.
Tesoro Tejon.
Man, bingo!
Oh, that's funny.
I didn't think you'd get that one. Yeah. Everybody's using the everybody's using the AT Pro.
AT series. I mean, because there's a lot of AT Gold. Well, not as big as AT. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's so somebody that's just getting into the hobby. Look at Angie. Okay, remember we talked to Angie, a couple weeks back, and she did a lot of research and watching videos for a few years before she bought her machine, and she knew what she was going to get. She was going to get what everybody was using because it was working for them. So that's what she got her, her AT Pro. So I think anybody that's that does their research before they jump out and just buy something like I always did before. We didn't have the internet back then. We just had to go by what detector store you went to and what he had too many of. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's how I ended up with my...
Hold on. I got to tell you a story. Bob. You guys will laugh. The first time, okay, when I stepped up to a little bit, was a White's Prism 3. They'd just come out. I had a Bounty Hunter before that, but I found a White's dealer. I used that thing for a couple months, and I wanted to step up. So I went back to the White's dealer, and he had an XLT. Brand new. I ended up buying 2 extra coils. I was so excited. Well, I was having issues, like I wasn't understanding the machine, and I went back to him, and I had just heard about MineLab, and this guy is a White's dealer exclusive. That's all he carries. And on his wall, I just heard about it. He had an Explorer. I don't know what Explorer was out that time. And I'm like, oh, is that one for sale? What's the deal with that MineLab? He's like, oh, no, that's my personal machine. And to this day, I look back and I think, what a dummy of me to not buy a MineLab then when the White's dealer is using a MineLab. Yeah, and you could tell he was kind of embarrassed about it, like he didn't mean it to be out there. You know what I mean? I'm sure he'd come in because it was like his garage was converted to his, so tell me that isn't fun. You were talking about selling what that made me think of that story.
Yeah,
but
too
go
many
ahead.
of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a good one for you. The time that I've had in the hobby and stuff, because I've been around it for a minute or two, and I've used a few different machines. Would you believe I have not once stepped foot in a metal detecting store?
Really? That's weird. All online?
I figured
Floats.
I figure it's probably not a good idea for me to go into one, because it'll be like a kid in a candy store,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
smorgasbord. I want one of everything.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's like, ooh, look at that.
Ooh, shiny.
Yeah, and somebody says to you, you can pick just one. you're going to be there for 3 or 4 hours deciding, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want
it'd give me an anxiety attack.
Okay,
Yeah,
guys.
Only one? What do I do?
Let's get back on subject here, guys. Now, I agree. The AT Pro, the AT Gold, those are very hot machines. No doubt about it. I think it changed Garrett. I think it's really put them on the map. You look at before that. I mean, they did something right with the Ace 250 because that took off. The pinpointer, they're tried and true, and they've only upgraded and made them better. And then they come out with the AT series, and those are like $1,000 plus machines shoved into $500 plus machines. I'm impressed, but I want to talk about the AT Max, and then some other. We can't leave out the F70. That's in the midline price range. The G2. I mean, what a good machine. I got a good story about a G2, or what I consider pretty good. Those are some good machines. But what do you guys? Let's start with the AT Max. What do you guys think? I know there's nothing really out there, but what's your thoughts on it, on the little bit we've seen and heard?
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, for me, I would say that sometimes you got to call it the way you see it. And when Garrett came out with the AT Pro, they knocked it out of the park with that release.
Right.
And I think that's what we're going to see again with the AT Max. Does that mean that it's necessarily a better machine? No, not necessarily, but we have to give the machine time to prove itself.
Right.
And since the announcement of the AT Max, I've seen a lot of trash talk going on.
Yes.
And they don't even know what the machine can do yet. We haven't given it a chance.
How can you judge it? How can you judge something you've never even heard? You've never even... Yeah.
Now, based on the features that it has incorporated into it, it's kind of like, to me anyway, kind of like they took the best of the AT Pro, the best of the AT Gold, now let's merge it all together. Some of the features could be a real asset in the field. Others, maybe it's not what people are looking for. But one of the things that I think we'll have to keep an eye on with this one is its wider range of ground balance. It's a more finite scale, and I think that's going to prove to be very handy in the field, and that may be the purchasing point that causes people to pull the trigger on it. Others, they may stay with the tried and true.
Well, you look at the AT Pro, the AT Gold, and those are deep machines, and they are amazing. In whether it's iron or modern trash, they are very good at picking that out. Now they're talking about this AT Max being deeper. I mean, if it's an inch deeper, or my God, can you imagine 2 inches? I've seen that machine hit an AT Pro hit a dime at 8 inches with stuff around it. I've seen it hit a little token at like 7 or 8 inches that I could barely squeak out with the CTX, and the Garrett comes over and goes whoop 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 whoop. Solid number, solid VDI, solid tones. I mean, if they improved on the depth any bit, that thing's going to be a deep machine. It already is.
Right. I think it'll be a good contender in the field, in the market this year. And you got to stop and think too. They've also incorporated their Z-Link audio into it,
yes,
which could also be a nice purchasing point for some people.
Oh my goodness! Yeah.
Some people, they don't like the ability to go wireless, but others, they love it.
Right, and I would say most do. And that Z-Link looks like a very nice little setup, and I'm really excited to see what happens with that machine. And it's. I mean, I think you guys could agree. It's almost, we're talking about price range, so it's in there, but it's not a machine that's in that same category necessarily. I mean, if you see what people are finding with it and how good it is in iron and trash.
This is why I feel that when we get into talking about the mid-price, mid-range machines, there's only those to talk about, because even though there are other machines that are comparable, by Fisher or Technetics or Omega or I think Technetics
G2.
It does make a G2. That's what I meant. Why would you buy one? In my mind, why would you buy one when these are working so well? If something catches on, it catches on. So there's other machines out there. It's like, okay, well, there was when they came out with the F-75, and even though that didn't cost as much as an E-Track, and then you had what was the other one that was competing? There was the whites that was the V3, the V3i or whatever.
Yeah.
And out of those three machines right there, which one caught on? Right. It was the E-Track, and the other machines just faded. You didn't even hear about them no more because they just faded away.
I mean, you still hear about Fisher F-75. I mean, I don't hear anything about the V3i anymore. The DFX, rarely do I hear anything. So I agree with you. But the F-75, the T2, they've got a pretty decent following. And they have their own.
I wouldn't say they're not relevant. I'm not saying they're not relevant by any means.
Right. There's the G2. A quick story. I sold one for a friend, and the guy who bought it would call me and just loved that machine, and he was finding some killer stuff in parks, schools, a lot of field hunting, but the processor on that G2 is crazy. And I just had somebody recently, Tim Glick was telling me recently that the T2, he would very much, he had both. He said the T2 is probably the closest thing as far as fast recovery and stuff as his Deus, whatever.
Yeah.
The Deuce.
You said
whatever.
it right.
Oh, I did? Did I?
Deus.
Oh, good deal.
Yeah, you're always saying it right. You just question yourself. It's
now something I would like to go back a little bit that I kind of skipped over is Tesoro's. Tesoro has the Compadre, which is a very affordable machine, and that is a killer little relic machine. I don't even think it's $200. Don't hold me to that. But to catch up to the midline price range, you guys know how I feel about that Outlaw. I mean, I would consider it more of a specialty machine. I personally wouldn't want to go hunt parks and stuff with it. Where there's a lot of targets, but as far as relic machine, field sites that, a house site in a field where it was tore down before modern trash and stuff, that's what I would choose. There's nothing in the $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 range that I think that I'm aware of that I've used or had the opportunity to use that I would pick over that machine for an all-out relic machine.
Well, you mentioned to me just a little earlier about that guy that used that $60 little machine out in the field and did really good with it. Mm-hmm. You can almost use any machine that's out there right now in a cornfield, and if there's something, typically, I don't know why, but most of your finds are going to be within 3 or 4 inches anyhow. I don't know why it's like that in a field. I know you mentioned it to me.
Yes.
And Lou said, mentioned that to me, and the fields that I've hunted, the same thing. I'm like, oh, what's up with that? But so I think anything that has any sort of discrimination whatsoever is going to do good in a farm field.
To some extent, yeah, but you are going to find deeper coins and relics, and you need something that can handle the iron, all the iron and stuff, and not all the machines. You can go out and find stuff for sure with just about any machine out there if you set it up right and all the price ranges. But to find that stuff and the heavy iron and stuff, you're going to need you need some discrimination. Not discrimination. You need some separation of targets, some quick recovery. That's definitely going to make a big difference. Yeah, you could take a starter machine out there and go out and find, pound that site and find a quarter of what's available that's really good, or even less, and you're going to find stuff, but not like you're going to find with something a little more suited for that, or that can handle those conditions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, with that $60 machine, he missed a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that machine would never pick up on.
I think we put Josh to sleep.
Yeah, he fell asleep. Josh!
Yes, I'm still here.
Yep, he dozed off. We done bored him to death. But,
I think really excited.
One of the things that impressed me about the AT Pro, they call it, I didn't know for the longest time AT stood for all terrain. And I don't even know if that suits
Mike,
it the best.
You're a dealer.
I was a dealer. You're right. I should have known that. But one of the things, that thing, you can take it to a park, you can take it to a school, you can take it to relic hunting fields. It's like, it doesn't matter what kind of style of hunting you can go hunt beaches with it. I've even seen some discussions about it doesn't do good in saltwater, and then I hear people say it does great in saltwater. You got to turn it down, and it'll work great. That is at that price point, and you can go do about anything. That thing is up there with some of the best coin machines, that are known for finding deep silver. It is up there as one of the best relic machines. You can't go wrong, but there are some other machines in that price range that are very good as well. But I am really excited to see what comes of the Max.
Absolutely.
Yep. Anything to add? Anybody?
Well, is there like a special particular machine in the mid-range price range that you're watching for, Bob? One that you think is going to do great?
No.
Wow. Okay,
listen,
so he's axing the mid-range.
Well, no, I said what I had to say. If for some reason somebody something happened to both of my CTXs, I wouldn't buy another one. I would probably buy an AT Pro and a Storm Coil, or I would buy assuming that these things are going to be good, I'd go buy an AT Max. I wouldn't spend that kind of money on a CTX again. I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
Even with the hot rocks in my area, I wouldn't spend that kind of money on a CTX or even an E-Track. As much as I loved my E-Track and as much as I've warmed up to the CTX and I've been using for 5 years, if I lost both of them, guess what? I'd go to an AT Pro and or the Max, whatever. That's my feeling. There's nothing else out there that I've seen side by side hunted with these guys where it just drives me insane that my machine should smoke them, and it does. when it comes to the hot rocks. Okay, but I'll yell out, "What'd you get?" Just another hot rock, and I get a little grin on my face because I don't know what those are until I stick my pinpointer in the ground and I stumble across a couple, But
as you're digging something good out of the hole.
Yes, right,
yeah,
right.
Because you're not having any kind of hot rock issue with the E-Track or CTX. No. I'm really curious to see. I hope somebody buys one, or we can somehow come up with one to test in the Max in Pennsylvania, because it makes me wonder if it'll handle the hot rocks better. That everybody, it plagues people in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. We'll have to wait and see.
Mm-hmm. I would be really excited to see how it does there with the issues that they've had. Now, talking to Mark Borden, it sounds like he's pretty much got the hot rocks figured out with the AT Pro. He can tell a difference talking to him for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part. He's still plagued by him. If you ask him if you'd rather have an AT Pro or a CTX, he'll tell you he'd rather have a CTX.
Okay.
But there again, there again, you're talking about what a $2,000 difference for what?
Right.
A $2,000. What can you? You could go on a nice little 3 or 4 day vacation with $2,000.
Right. Or you could have 3 or 4 machines like we talked about earlier for that kind of money.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many things you can do with a $2,000. It's hard to justify that $2,000, when you can take it almost anywhere. So
yeah.
I don't know. I can't. When you were talking about things that are relevant, and what's hot for 2017. And that's my opinion. There's only 3 machines that have made their mark and that are really, really made their mark, and that's a CTX, a Deos, and an AT Pro. I can't wait to see what the next generation holds. I can't wait to see. I'm happy that Garrett, they knew they had something good when they made their first Pro pointer. They had something really, really good. But you know what? They weren't going to go, well, you know what? We don't have to make another one. Nope. They came out with the Carrot. The Carrot's way better. Okay. It's not just a little bit better. It's way better.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, same with the AT Pro and AT Gold. My God, everybody loves them, and they're doing really good with them. And all of a sudden, they come out with an AT Max. It's like they didn't have to do that.
Right. Right.
I don't see Minelab doing that. I don't see Deos doing that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know though, because we have seen the inception of the new Deus pinpointer coming out this year.
Oh, I did hear about that. That's right. You can hear it in your headphones.
Well, not only that, it also can work as a standalone pinpointer, or you can patch it in with your Deus, like you were saying. And one of the big problems that people seem to have with pinpointers, your speaker holes get plugged up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's not such a problem on the Carrot, is it?
No, not really with the Carrot. You can just wash it off. Well, with the Deus pinpointer, there are no speaker holes.
Is it multi-tone?
Multi-tone. No, it has a standalone pinpointer at least, because I have not had the opportunity to mess with one.
Does it have two-tone? I am not going to be more impressed.
Like a regular pinpointer.
I'm not going to be more. You ain't going to interest me in anything else but a Garrett until somebody comes out with a two-tone to tell the difference between iron.
Mike and I have talked about this for years. That why has somebody not? I've seen the technology that they could put into a small watch, the computing technology, and you tell me you cannot come up with a multi-tone or even a two-tone pinpointer. That, how many little chips and nails are we going to chase in a hole? And what spoiled us was it was
the sun rays.
The sun rays, and that spoiled us, because it's like when we once we started, once sun ray, I guess once they I talked to Ralph, and as soon as the machine started going waterproof, he wanted nothing to do with it. Okay. And so at that point, we're all relegated to use, like you said, a standalone pinpointer. And I just, it's beyond me. Everybody comes out with their, their whites and their macro and the carrot and everything else.
Everybody's got them now, and they all. I mean, they've all came a long way from when all that was available was the stud finder
whites.
Yeah, I mean, not knocking whites. I've heard some people talk good about their new pinpointer, but the MindLab pinpointer, I know a couple people that had nothing but problems.
I've heard of a number of people having problems with the Pro Finds as well, but thankfully for me, knock on wood, I've never had any issues.
I have one, and actually sent it back because I thought it was broken, and they sent me another one, and evidently, no, that's just how they are.
What was the problem, Bob? It's real chattery or something. Chatter. Yeah, it's chattery.
Oh, it's just I you know what? It's been so long since I actually turned it on. It was just not really reliable. It just was. I guess it was chattery. I guess it was, sometimes you thought it was on and it wasn't on. It's just the delay in the on off, the little tiny salt and pepper shaker holes in it that got clogged up just from air particles, as opposed to mud. I just they just didn't catch on, and they were $200.
Yeah.
They were at one point when they first came out. Then they lowered them to $169. Ooh, it's MindLab, and I think they're selling them now for $69 just to get rid of the things. But I mean, I'm not going to throw it away. It's a backup. It's a backup.
Yeah.
But anyhow, back to that two-tone or multi-tone. There's no excuse for it. You can't tell me that you can't come up with something that's going to be a multi-tone.
I agree. I come out with it, and whoever does that is probably going to become a millionaire. I don't know why they haven't done that. I don't understand, because you're right. Look what they're shoving in to the dais. Look at all they're shoving into that little tiny box. You can't tell me you can't shove a two-tone into a pinpointer. It's got to be able to be done. That's all. Two tones.
Well, we're several years ago. You were trying to develop or talk to somebody about making a multi-tone pinpointer, but the guy ended up. There was some kind of issues or whatever.
Yeah.
That was the same time you were going with wireless before anybody else was going with wireless.
I was trying, and I had an electrical engineer, but it just didn't work out. We had after a year, nothing was done, and I just pulled out before I put any more money in it. But but that didn't work. I wish it would have, and it's one thing to have an idea, but to get something manufactured and But yeah.
And with these big companies out there with, unlimited resources, there's just no excuse for not having it almost seems like these guys that are making these things, these machines, aren't out using them on a regular basis.
Sometimes, I agree.
How many times have you in my area, not only you stick a pinpointer, I clearly get a good signal with my machine. I dig a plug. I'm facing broken, busted up, rusty nails, hot rocks, and I got to sort through all of that to find my button or my coin.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like these people that are making these things, they're not out there doing it, because if they were, they would have to come across a situation like that. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm wasting my time. I'm wasting a lot of time here chasing down nails.
Yeah. Why can't we come up? Why haven't they come up with one that's two tones for iron and ferrous and non-ferrous? That's all.
Yeah.
Two
Josh,
tones. He's asleep.
Are you there, Josh?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. How many times, both of you guys, how many times have you dug a hole, stuck your pinpointer in there, you had a good signal, good, strong signal, okay?
752 times.
And you stick your pinpointer in, and you hear it, but it's in the wall down deeper. So you take your shovel, you dig, 3 inches behind where your pinpointer's sounding off, and then you stick it back in there. It's still chiming off, but now it's deeper. You're like right on it, but it's deeper. So you dig all the way down. You're digging, you're chiseling through this crap and rocks, and you pull out a big nail, and you're like, that wasn't what I was chasing. And to find out the stupid target is in the plug. Your coin is in the plug, and here your pinpointer was chasing a nail in the hole and costing you all this time. How many times has that happened to you guys?
Too many. Have you
Always
ever?
check your plug.
I have scratched a few silver coins by chasing a piece of iron. It's happened on more than one occasion, not several, but a few, and it's like, you got to be kidding me.
Shame on you.
Let's get back on track though. We went off into pinpointers, but
very important subject though.
It is. You're right, and I think it's safe to. I mean, I know me and Bob are in agreement. I'm still using the original Pro Pointer, and I'm okay with that. I'm kind of jealous. I want a carrot, but I would have to say, from everything I know and I hear, the Garrett carrot is the way to go. What do you think, Josh? Do you got an opinion on that?
One of the absolute best pen pointers that I have ever been fortunate enough to use is the carrot.
Okay, so we agree.
You can't beat that performance in that price range.
Right, I agree. Now, I don't even know if we're still in the mid-price range, but something I'm really excited to see, and I think you are too, Josh, is the impact, the macro, or
the Nocta Impact.
Yeah, what'd I say?
You said the macro.
Oh, I was thinking eraser too. I'm kind of excited about that. I combined them, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, the impact is, and that thing looks killer. And you know somebody that's used one quite a bit, right? Because you're kind of famous. Me and Bob are just lonely little peasants.
Who are you talking to?
Me and Bob are just lonely little peasants.
Who are you talking to?
You, the special guest.
Someone who's been fortunate enough to use one a little bit, and I even had the opportunity to check one out myself a little bit last weekend. And I'll tell you, for a company that people have only recently been hearing about over the last few years or so, at least here in the States, that's one you're going to want to keep an eye on. That impact is, I think it's going to be a serious contender in the field.
What do you think?
Why do you say that?
It's very, shockingly lightweight. I mean, when I picked one up over the weekend, they had said, "Oh yeah, there's a demo unit over there. Go check it out." And I picked it up, and I said, "Yeah, I can see why it's a demo unit. It's got no guts in it. There's nothing here."
Yeah.
And they said, "No,
I
it's,
thought it was
it's
just a
ready."
dummy.
Yeah, they said, "No, it's ready to go. Turn it on." The thing is just that light, but yet it has excellent performance too. I saw a Go Live video where a gentleman had used it to go through a very trashy area, can slaw, pull tabs, iron, all that happy stuff that you normally find in a park, and popped a gold class ring.
Nice.
Because of the target separation it has.
Did he talk much
Nice.
about the depth of it and stuff?
It gets good depth.
Good depth?
Yes. I can't throw exact numbers out there because I wasn't along, when these targets were dug, but I did hear that it got very good depth, very good target separation, and for that price point, and
Is
for
that a
as
mid-price?
weight as it is,
It's kind of the higher.
yeah, it's kind
mid.
of the upper mid range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
What do you-
it's going to come in
800?
somewhere probably. I'm thinking a little higher than that even, but
Oh, really?
because I haven't really heard a whole lot yet as far as price, and I didn't think to go and check on a price before we did this show, but you're still talking probably below the $1,000 mark.
Well,
And-
we're kind of gently moving up the scale. That can be a in between or mid or high. We're not sure. That's okay.
Right.
I am excited for you to get out and test your new 4-score.
Yes, I'm looking forward to playing around with that a little bit, see if I can
If-
swing it.
Anybody doesn't know this, tell the story, how you got that, please.
Oh, how I got the 4-score?
Yeah.
Well, as they may or may not know, this last weekend I was an attendee at National Metal Detecting Day 2017 in Galesburg, Illinois. And not only was it a fantastic event, very well put together, a lot of stuff going on, I think the number was somewhere around between donated prizes, seeded coins, raffles, stuff like that, somewhere in the neighborhood of $27,000 in prizes.
Wow.
And some of these were, there were some machines that could be won by finding prize tokens on the seeded fields, and then there were some other machines that could be won in form of raffle. You had to purchase raffle tickets, and maybe your number gets drawn, maybe it doesn't. And myself, since I've been looking for a lighter machine, since the CTX is a little too much to swing right now, I knew that they had a dais up for raffle. It was just a baseline dais, but it was still a dais. And thought, well, hey, give it a shot. I'll buy some tickets, and who knows, maybe I win. And if I don't, I'm not too worried about it anyway. The club put in a lot of hard work and effort in putting this event together. It goes to help the club, so I'm not worried about it. It still goes for a good cause one way or the other.
Right.
Well, they start gathering everybody around, and they start pulling ticket numbers for this item or this item, because it wasn't one of those where you'd go around and put your ticket in a bucket or something for the prize that you were hoping to get. It's just they would say, hey, we're going to draw for this now, and they'd draw a ticket. Whoever had that number, that's what they win.
Yeah.
And come to find out, they drew a few different items, and then they decided they were going to draw for a detector, and I'm kind of halfways listening when all of a sudden they ramble off the number, and I hear my wife say something, and I turn to see what it was that she had said, only she wasn't there anymore. And I look to the other side of me because I think, oh, maybe she's over here. And I said, what did you say? And some guy says, I didn't say anything. So I'm looking like, where did my wife just go? When Mark Hoover tells me, well, one of your tickets just won. She went up to get your prize. You just won yourself a metal detector. And I had wound up. They had drawn one of my tickets for the Nokta Force Core Pro Pack, which is the detector, the carry bag, 3 coils, a pair of headphones, the rechargeable batteries for it, fines pouch, a hat. I mean, you got everything in the box.
That is awesome.
Now, is that a pretty lightweight machine?
I have not tried it yet. I haven't even unboxed it yet. I need to be getting that done here very soon. The box does seem a little heavier than I would have anticipated, but from what I'm seeing on the manufacturer specs, it only weighs, I'm assuming this is just with the one coil, probably the stock coil, it weighs in at almost 4 pounds.
Uh-huh.
Little heavy, but not bad.
Right, but as you both know as well, that's about twice the weight of a Deus, but that's half the weight of a CTX almost.
Yeah, nice.
I thought a CTX was only a little over 5.
No, I think it's a little closer to 7.
I don't know.
Of course, then again, your CTX may weigh around 5.
Why do you say that?
Well, I've got a camera mount on mine. I'm usually running, if I can stand to swing it, a 17-inch coil.
Oh.
Or, the Coiltech 10x5 coil, which is heavy for its size.
Yeah, it's the CTX is 5.2 pounds.
Yeah, I thought it was 5. Yeah, just a hair over 5.
Well, that thing feels like it's about 10 sometimes. But yeah.
But when I'm running a heavier coil and stuff, obviously my machine is going to be heavier.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's why I say yours could quite possibly be lighter than mine. Either way, though, in my situation, it's just a little too much for me.
I think he's really hoping he can swing that thing. I think it looks way cool.
I am. Even if I only can use the small coil on it, I've seen some very good reports of the recovery speed and the target separation of these machines. So I'm figuring, hey, it's not like I've got a whole lot in it. Let's give it a chance.
Yeah, for sure.
Like with the AT Max, we don't know what it's going to do yet. It hasn't had a chance to prove itself. I have not messed with any Nokta products before, so I'm at least going to give it its fair chance.
Yeah, I think there's some really. I'm hopeful. I'm excited to hear how you do with that for sure. Hey, something I want to say, and I should probably, at my age, know when to just keep my mouth shut. But you were bringing up, we brought it up a couple times about all the negatives. There's been a lot of negative stuff on the Max, and I'll tell you something that really upset me and bothered me, and it stuck with me. Is I was part of the official Whites metal detector team and friends, I think is what it's called. And on more than one occasion, I seen post negative and beating up the Max. And to the point, after the second time, somebody posted a picture of somebody with one that I'm guessing is an advertisement thing, and people were just ragging it. And I just want to say, I found it so rude and unnecessary. It doesn't matter if you're using a $50 machine or a $5,000 machine. We're all trying to enjoy this hobby, and I just thought it was so rude and so out of line. And they can say what they want, but in the end, those people that run that forum should have put a stop to that, because I'm not saying it's never happened, but I've never seen Garrett make, any of the Garrett forums make fun of white smell detectors. I've never seen MindLab groups make fun of the whites, metal detectors. I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. And I was really disappointed and really, I left the group. I don't want to be part of a group like that. But
and I guess in that aspect, my whole thing is I would rather than to try and drag down another company or something, I would rather spend my time out there finding these items to post for people.
Yeah, I thought it was really arrogant and rude. And I'm sure they were just joking, and it's all in good fun in their eyes. But I didn't find. You guys know I love to joke. I didn't find any humor in that whatsoever. I was very disappointed in the way that went and how people were, what they were saying. And not only that group page on Facebook let them do that. That was absolutely uncalled for and really turned me off to that group. I don't want nothing to do with it. But which brings me into the MXT All Pro and the MX Sport. Boy, I've seen a lot of talk about those lately. Did I say that right? MXT All Sport. Yeah, I said that right.
The MX Sport?
MX Sport and MXT All Pro. Those machines seem to be really hot. Did you fall asleep, Bob?
No, I'm here.
Yeah, Bob's actually...
He was thinking about it.
Yeah, he was. You're right. He was thinking about it. Bob's
I have a friend who uses an MX Sport, and he does really, really well with that. When he first got that, he was really bummed out because he had an MXT, just a classic MXT, and he had a DFX, and the DFX is a lot slower, but he actually enjoyed hunting with the DFX more so than the MXT. Well, I guess for Christmas he splurged on himself. He was going to get himself one of the new MX Sports, and you could see the disappointment. That he was very disappointed with it. It was so noisy. He said his noise was driving him crazy. Well, he learned it. It's just one day. He said it's just like somebody turning the switch on, and it all made sense to him. And from that point on, he was hunting right next to us with our CTXs and finding it was bang, bang, bang. We were all just, repeatedly pulling, targets out of the ground, equally. And it's like he was keeping right up with us. And he loves that machine. He does really, really well with it. I know I've read other things where people can't stand them. I think maybe that switch didn't go off in their head, and they were thinking the same thing he was in the beginning. But now he would never use anything else. His other two machines, they're just wallflowers now,
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's only natural. When you get a machine that's working for you and it's producing for you out there in the field, then naturally that's what you're going to want to use.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I don't know. I've seen a lot. I've probably seen more talk about the MXT All Sport and the MX
Pro,
MX
Sport.
Yeah, I get them confused every single time. But I've probably heard more about those two machines than I've heard about coming out of whites for a long time. And I don't mean that bad. I think it sounds like maybe they really hit a good home run with both of those machines. It does seem like there's
which one has the yellow in it? The black and yellow.
MX All Sport.
Is that the MX?
Or
is
MX,
that the All
the
Sport?
MX Sport.
MX Sport. Yeah, the MX
okay.
Sport and then the MXT All Pro. I screwed that up. Yeah, that's they're both being highly talked about though, and I've heard for years a lot of guys have said that they felt like the MXT was. I mean, that's been around a long time.
A great relic machine.
Yes, a great relic machine. I've heard that. I've even had some people tell me that they thought it was, personally, they thought it was White's best machine. I don't know. Did you just hear that? I think Bob just fell out of his chair. He fell asleep. Good. Good. Okay, so let's.
Bob's going, oh, moving on. This topic bores me.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you guys think? So we're kind of on the edge of high end, that in between. Now, what do you think? I wanted to say Macro Racer. Man, that's a cool looking machine. I don't know how it works. I have heard a little bit of talk about it. I think it's really cool, and I'm excited to see more about that. The Impact, that seems like a really cool machine. Now let's move on. I think we can all agree at the high end, E-Track CTX are still really amazing machines.
Yeah.
Yes,
you ever notice?
As a matter of fact, the CTX and the Deus, I do believe, are still two of the most popular machines on the market right now.
Uh-huh.
Really? I haven't heard as much about coming out of the E-Track since the CTX come out. It seems to drop off a little bit.
There are still a lot of die-hard E-Track users out there, and kudos to them. They're doing great.
Yeah.
And they are a very viable machine. As far as I'm concerned, in line, it would be CTX, E-Track, then the Deus. I wouldn't say the Deus and the CTX are the two top. I would say the two top are the CTX and the E-Track.
Well, I didn't necessarily say they were the top, but they are two of the most popular.
Yes, and E-Track is still a very viable machine, and there's people that
yes,
just
still a very strong contender.
Yeah, people still will not give them up, and I almost wonder right now, if I didn't give mine up to have a CTX, if I might be one of those people,
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. The Deus, I think I see more talk about the Deus than I do the E-Track personally. I'm not putting down the E-Track. I love an E-Track. It'll be one of my favorite machines for a long time, but that thing, I think you can't knock it. Enough people have used it and have had a lot of success with them, and I know people that's what they exclusively hunt with. Now, I would love the opportunity, and I know it'll never happen, to use them side by side, because I suspect this is just, I've never used one. I don't want to, but talking to Mike Spicer and Carl Smith about the Deus, I suspect that those are better relic machines than they are all-around machines. And I could be wrong. Like I said, that's just from their conversations and stuff. And I think the E-Track and the CTX would keep up with them with relic hunting. But, look at the price of a CTX. You look at the weight of those two machines. I think, they're all comparable in different ways. Now, you got to deal with that weight on the CTX, but as a relic hunter, I loved the option of the GPS and watching where I could watch where I'm at in the field live and make sure I stay on track. And that, if you're a relic hunter that hunts out in the middle of nowhere, how amazing that is and what an important tool that is, because when you're out in the middle of a field, it is so easy to get off track and where you've been. That I love that feature. And I know that's a bell and whistle kind of thing, but
Lou uses his all the time.
That CTX is also just a killer detector. I mean, there's no doubt
if you can stand the weight.
If you can stand the weight and the price.
Good point.
Yeah.
have talked about where does, Josh, I got a question for you that me and Bob were contemplating earlier, pondering. Where does MindLab go from this? I mean, I feel like with the CTX, they almost priced themselves out of the market. Nobody comes out with a better machine, lower priced. So is their next machine going to be $3,000, $3,500? And at what point do hobbyists like us say enough's enough?
Well, you've got to stop and take into consideration, though, the CTX has not been MindLab's priciest machine.
No, but but it is by far their priciest coin relic. Somebody will drop $5,000 on a gold machine where they might go find $5,000 in a week. I think that's a little different.
Right.
You're talking. I mean, $3,500. I know people that have nice cars that didn't cost that. Used cars, obviously, that didn't cost that much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But this is the advantage. What we're in a great time in the hobby right now, I think, because what we are seeing from the manufacturers is that in order to stay in the game, so to speak, they have to stay on the cutting edge of technology. And we've seen some great machines released in, say, the last 5 years.
Oh yeah, couldn't agree more.
That being said, we've already seen some great products released even late last year, early this year, and even up to just here very recently with the AT Max and the Nocta Impact and the Deus Pinpointer, the Garrett Z-Link. So I think what we're going to start to see, because there's more things coming down the pipe, and I'm sure we'll be seeing them soon, hopefully, that what we are going to start to see is that they're going to start making them more powerful like they have been. They're going to start making them better balanced. They're going to start making them lighter.
Yes.
And they're going to start making them more affordable.
Okay, so with that said, you said the Nocta Impact, you think it's going to be a contender. We know that the Deus... We know the Deus is a contender, without a doubt. I mean, so many people out there using the Deus and having really big success. You still
right, over the past few years, the Deus has really increased in popularity.
You look at the F75 and kind of new releases and the T2, and why, I think, the Max, the AT Pro right now, I think I wonder if MindLab is pricing themselves right out of the market on the hobby end, because the three of us have been talking and we're over the mid-price range. Nobody mentioned the 705, the 505, and that's because you don't hardly hear about them anymore. I'm not saying they're bad machines, but I think in that price range there's better machines. So they're not really
I don't think they're necessarily bad machines or anything like that. It's just for some people they're not quite as popular as others, and that's why a lot of times you don't hear about them, because everybody is talking about something else.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I in the history of metal detectors coming out, nobody has come out with a new improved metal detector in the price range that is cheaper than its predecessor. So if MindLab decides to build something beyond the CTX 3030, they're going to be more expensive. I would have to guess, unless they just keep improving on the CTX. And I think, I think you both can agree with me. When the E-Track hit the market, MindLab was probably the most popular brand of metal detectors out on the market. They were getting so popular with the Explorers, the E-Track come out. I mean, I watched Ohio turn into a MindLab state.
A MindLab state.
And now, you're seeing the AT Pro come out, and you've seen, this impact, and the Deus. Man, there's people going crazy about the Deus, and it's been out a bit. It's been out It's been out almost as long, if not as long, as the CTX, and it is still getting talked about heavily.
That's right. And that's why I think we are going to see these prices get a little more competitive.
But do you think MindLab will follow? Do you see MindLab improving on the 3030 and it drop in price?
That we'll have to wait and see. But we're seeing that some manufacturers aren't staying up there on the cutting edge, so to speak. And I think we're going to find out that they're going to start to get left behind, in a sense, for the manufacturers who are willing to be competitive. And MindLab has been in the game a long time. They've made some great machines. It wouldn't surprise me if we see something like that happen. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But with the other competitive manufacturers out there, they may not have any choice. Because
I don't see how it would make good business sense if you still had anybody that has one or two or three CTXs on the shelf in their store, not to mention these places that like such as Calico or some of these big warehouses that have hundreds and hundreds of CTXs sitting on the shelf, that they are going to come out with something that's better and less expensive, because who in the heck are going to buy the CTXs at that point?
Well, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's going to be, dramatically less expensive, but the increase in price may not be as much as we have seen in later years.
I think
unless they drop the price of a CTX, is the only way they would be able to pull that off, business-wise. Business-wise, they would have to literally drop the price of the CTX to be able to bring in a machine that's going to compete with other machines, and even compete against its own machine as far as price point, and so it's just business sense. I see what Mike is saying.
We just saw it with Garrett at SHOT Show. They announced the price drop on the AT Pro, and then the beginning of May they announced the release of the AT Max.
Yes,
right. Yes.
And what I'm getting at, you look at how many AT Pro users are out there and what they're capable of finding in that price range of a machine. You cannot tell me that MindLab has not taken a huge hit over just that machine alone.
It's a good possibility, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm big on MindLab.
We should know sometime by the end of this summer, I would imagine, because if anybody has paid attention, that MindLab on their high-end treasure machines every 5 years come out with their upgraded version.
Roughly
guess
every
what?
5 years, yeah. When we're there.
And we're there right now with the CTX.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not knocking. I was very disappointed in MindLab for a couple things, but one of the big things was right around the time the CTX come out. First off, I'm not knocking the machine. I love MindLab machines. They're incredible, but not only was the CTX by far the most expensive, coin relic machine out on the market, but the accessories, oh my god, the accessories. And then not only that, but at the same time, and I think, I can only speculate, I don't know, and I could be way off, but at the same time, MindLab's accessories for all their other stuff skyrocketed. I remember a guy called me on an Explorer manual, And I can't for the life of me remember the price of the manual, but it like quadrupled or more. I couldn't believe it. You know, their manuals aren't that helpful to begin with. The batteries, if don't hold me to the price. This has been, over 5 years ago. The batteries I think went from like $30-$40 for the E-Track to like $80-$90 somewhere in that. Did they do that? Why was all that done? They had to have been making money at $30-$40, so why did they more than double the price of their batteries? Why did they make the accessories so expensive for the CTX? And I think, and I could be, like I said, I could be way wrong, I think at that time they were sitting on top of the mountain as number one, and they said, we can do this. And, people are talking about the Z-Link, and MindLab's got wireless that'll work on any machine. I haven't heard anybody talk about it because it's double the price. I think for MindLab to stay competitive, they're going to have to come down on their prices.
Well, and that could be what we see because, like I said, some of these other manufacturers are getting more competitive with their prices. And in terms of the like the rechargeable batteries and stuff, now we have the aftermarket options we can go to, like the R&D. They, they're making rechargeable battery packs for the Excaliburs now. They're making them for the AT Pros now, stuff like that.
The E-Track, I believe, right?
Yes, and the E-Track, yeah, and a number of others, I'm sure, at a cost-effective price.
Yes. So I'm they've got the technology by far. They make some incredible machines. You look back 5 years ago, 6 years, 7 years before we started seeing some of these machines emerge, like the AT Pro, and they were on the mountain, at top of the mountain, and I feel like they've kind of slipped a little bit with some of, with their prices. I feel like they're pricing themselves out. They've got the technology, but I think for them to stay competitive, they're going to have to change their business a little bit. I do.
Well, and to stay out there and on the cutting edge, sometimes you've got to mix it up a little bit.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I agree, but yeah, I think we covered about everything. What do you guys think? I think it's a good show.
Yeah,
of course it was.
I think we did. I think we did as well. And I have to. It was perfect timing too because I just pulled in to fuel up, and that couldn't have worked out better.
Well, let's another minute real quick. I want to hear what you guys. Do I dare ask you to pick a machine in each price range that you're excited about, or you think's going to be look for this year?
Oh, I have no input on this one. None.
I think the
I'm loyal. I'm definitely loyal.
I think the Max. I'm really excited to see what comes with that. I know they've been out a bit, but the Go Finds, you've got me really interested in those, Josh, at the lower price points. And I'm excited to see what the Macro Racer 2 and the Nocta, what is it? Impact. I am really excited about that one. And I'm with Bob.
I need to go to sleep. I really need to go to sleep. You ever been so tired you get punchy? I guess they call it.
Yeah. Well, let me wrap this up, and you can go. I just want to say,
Bob's going. Come on, I'm getting slap happy here.
What's funny is that I've known Mike a long time, and I know he uses this term frequently, and I've never noticed it before. But every time he says he's getting excited, I'm busting up inside. I'm
Bob
dying.
I'm finds that absolutely hilarious when you do that.
Nice, Bob. Thanks.
Tonight for some reason.
You know what? I'm excited that I'm almost done with you for the night. Well, I just I just want to wrap up real quick and say I'm with Bob. I'm curious to see if this will be the year Mine Lab announces their new machine, because he's right. It's usually on schedule about every 5 years. So let's wrap it up, guys, so Bob can go to sleep. Sweet dreams, Bob.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Josh.
Yes, Josh. Thank
Mike,
you so much.
Hey,
I want to thank both of you guys for keeping me awake.
Good deal. Go ahead, get some fuel and get some sleep.
We're going to do that right now.
Talk to you guys later.
Mike's going to get excited.
Yep, and I'm going to get excited. Good night, guys.
Okay, bye.
See you, bye. All right. We certainly hope that you all enjoyed the show. From myself, Mike, and Bob, thanks for dropping in. Come back and visit them again. And if you can get out there and find those relics, get out there and dig them up. Do the field hunting, do the woods hunting, the relic hunting, the coin shooting. Remember, all metal mode, where we're talking all detecting all the time. Have a wonderful evening, folks, and see us again.